Okay, come on, man. You again, really? Damn. Yes, it's me again. And that's also Shovel Knight that you just saw. After you finish a level, you just sit back and chill by a fire until morning time comes. And that inspired me to do the very same thing, which I'm doing now. And do about, 3 or 4 times a week. And that's kind of the whole point. You know, what games inspired you to do something? What games are attached to a certain memory, like, what girl or what bike, what year, what event? Sometimes, oftentimes, just going to the collection, you go through it not so much just to choose a game, but to choose a memory. Case in point, in the early 2000s, my haircut was inspired by King of Fighters 99. And remember, this isn't about what I looked like then or what I look like now. It's about how I felt then and how I feel now, and how the items that can spark that nostalgia trip are all right behind me. One memory in particular is pretty strong. My parents went out dancing on a Friday night, and I asked them to leave me with like $5 or $10 or something like that so I could go rent some games, and sure enough, they did. So I wasn't driving at the time. I just walked on over to Marsh, the grocery store, to rent a couple of video games. One of them was Dinosaurs for Hire, which was fired, and the other one, well, beyond memorable. I don't think that requires any further commentary. I'd like to think that my friend Kevin was playing the same game at the same time, but I have a feeling he was wrapped up in something else. Alright, look, I have to admit, that is a pretty good engine for the Genesis, no doubt. But hurry up and get my bike back. The summer of 1994 was very memorable, especially for my brother accusing me of listening to what sounded like, quote, 9 Inch Nails through saccharin. Now look, it's not all fun and games. For example, my mother lent me $40 one time because I kind of asked for it. I was like, hey Mom, I think I've, kind of earned, an opportunity to get something I really want to get. And she's like, what? Well, I just got done cutting the grass, and I was making good grades, and everything was hunky-dory. So I asked for $40 to add with whatever else I already had in my pocket so I could go buy a video game at Target. And she's like, yeah. So sure enough, she gave me $40, and I went and got this, which set in motion all kinds of things, but we'll save this for another story. However, I remember what the weather was like that day. I remember what my mother was wearing. I remember where she was sitting. I remember how the yard looked when I was finished cutting it. All of that, it all collects into this big ball of yarn of just nostalgia that I just like to unravel whenever I kind of go toward the collection or open things up and look at the manuals and look at the advertisements of the day. And I tell you what, stuff like that just makes me giddy. But sometimes the memory that you're looking for, the memory that you want to relish again, isn't found in the game box. It isn't found in the system when you turn it on. It's found elsewhere. As in Jimbo's Barbecue. Oh my God, I love that stuff. Actually, no. That house, I don't know how long it's been Jimbo's, but it's been a while since I've been here. In the late 80s, that house was the house of my best friend. And he got his hands on a Sega Genesis long before I got my hands on one. So I'd been gawking at the Sega Genesis at Toys R Us for ages. But to actually be able to sit down, and play a Sega Genesis and spend the night, heck, he'd be asleep. I'd be up till 4 in the morning playing the Sega Genesis. And it was just absolutely incredible. I'd never experienced anything like it. I mean, here I am playing things like Ghouls and Ghosts and Phantasy Star 2 and Revenge of Shinobi and Last Battle, stuff like that. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, that's something I'll never be able to have on my shelf. But I'll always have it upstairs. I'll always have it in the 4 chambers of my heart. And I'll keep writing letters so they'll put it on the National Register of Historic Places, which is where it deserves to be. Until then, I suggest that you keep collecting. Where is my Sega? Where's my Sega? Oh, there it is.